Welcome to the Writer Reads Flash Fiction from another 365 days of flash fiction. Month 4, Day 26. Sanctuary from the End of Days. Long live the king! Long live the end of days! Long live the king! Long live the end of days! Tiamon turned to Rodal. Why are they saying that? Long live the king! Rodal shouted, his blue eyes alight with fervour. Long live the end of days! Tiamon stared at his friend. What king? He wanted to ask. What days are ending? He plucked at Rodal's sleeve. Rhodes? The end of days! Rodal shouted, oblivious to Tiamon's touch. Tiamon looked around at the crowd. Something is very wrong, he thought, and jerked at Rodal's arm. The man turned on him with a snarl. Long live the king! He roared, thrusting his face into Tiamon's and curling a fist in the collar of his shirt. Murder gleamed in his eyes. Long live the end of days! Tiamon shouted back, hoping it would save him. Rodal released him, turning back to face the same way as the other men and women in the street. Long live the king! Tiamon backed away from his friend. For a moment, something else had looked out of Rodal's eyes. He dropped into a crouch and wove carefully between those gathered in the street. Noticing more joined them. A little girl clung to her mother's skirts, her eyes wide with fear and a fist stuffed in her mouth. Tiamon reached out and scooped her up as he passed, muffling her fearful cry with his hand. A boy saw them and dragged his younger siblings in Tiamon's wake. A slightly older girl took the papoose from her mother's shoulders and followed them. Soon he had a dozen children following him through the back streets. Where are we going? One of the boys whispered. Away, Tiamon said shortly, but his mind scrambled for the answer. The truth was, he didn't know. The gates are open. A woman had joined them, her guard's tunic slightly torn. I don't know why, but everyone is moving to the central square. Her face rippled with sadness and despair before growing strong again. I could not stop them. The gates, then, Tiamon decided, and then as far from here as we can get until we know what's happening. We have no provisions, the woman protested. The forest isn't far. We can make it if we run, the young girl offered. She glanced over her shoulder, adding, We should run. Other children nodded, their faces solemn but afraid. You lead. I'll take the rear, the guardsman told him, dropping back. Tiamon nodded, checking the road and walls were clear before darting out the gate toward the woods. He doubted the elves would make war on children. A faint smell of burning touched the air. Run! Tiamon shouted, pointing the children toward the trees. Run! I'll help anyone who falls. Some looked over their shoulders, but most ran. 2 or 3 turned back for their parents, an older sibling, a friend. Tiamon grabbed them and turned them about, forcing them to run with him and promising they'd go back as soon as everyone else was safe. 1 or 2 of the older ones helped him with those who fought. The smell of burning grew stronger, as if rock was melting or the ground burned in the distance behind them. He didn't dare look back. They made the shelter of the trees, but he urged them on. They'll see us, he cried. We have to go deeper. The children surged forward. Hurry, Tiamon urged, and then he did look back. A large-scaled shape sped toward the town, its dark wings outstretched, its eyes lamp-bright. He grabbed the arms of those nearest, those who'd stopped when he did, who'd looked back with him. Run! He screamed, pushing them into the trees. Run! He got them moving, making sure none stayed behind. A dragon! By all the gods! A dragon! All those people! He wanted to weep, but kept running instead. Go deeper, he urged when the shadows closed around them and the trees drew close together. The ground rose and fell in ridges, and he pushed them further. Deeper, he urged, picking one up when they fell. Deeper? The voice stopped him cold, and several children gasped. They crowded back toward him, the female guard interposing herself between them and the trees. Foliage parted in front of Tiamon, and he pushed the child behind him as an elf emerged, armor-clad, curved blade poised to strike. We seek refuge, he stuttered, backing away but keeping the children behind him. Refuge? From the end of days, Tiamon managed, and 2 more elves emerged, bows drawn and aimed at his heart. Tiamon froze. Where? Wherever will take us, Tiamat answered, but the elf shook his head. No. Where did you see the dragon? My town, Hills Run. The townsfolk were. He stopped at a loss for words, tried again. They were possessed, hailing him as king. All bar the children, the elf stated, looking over the group and then back at him, and two very rare adults. Tiamon glanced at the female guard. She met his eyes and swallowed hard. I couldn't, she began. I tried, but they. Tiamon reached over and laid a hand on her arm. I know. The elves lowered their bows. Did he see you? The first elf demanded, and Tiamon shook his head. I don't think so. We were under the trees when I saw him and didn't stop. For long, the elf contradicted. For long, Tiamon agreed. The elf sighed and sheathed his sword, turning to his companions. Find them a place, he ordered, and get them settled. I'll speak to the lady. The lady? Tiamon asked, and the elf turned to face him, meeting his gaze. His eyes flashed briefly silver, and he smiled a reptilian smile. You did not think we held these woods alone, did you?